Ukraine. Joining us this morning is Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Good morning to you. I want to start with the president's visit and the significance of this stop, not just for the situation in Ukraine, but also relations with Russia and, more importantly, maybe with China right now.
Well, Marty, obviously an important visit for the president to make to Ukraine, his first visit since the war began. He's been close in Poland. The first lady has obviously been there, as have a number of other world leaders, but an important moment for the United States and for our relationship with Ukraine. And as you mentioned, this breaking news about the new weapon we were providing, obviously an important part of the effort. It does seem like a lot of increased amounts of the same weapon we've provided already, although some of this new anti-armor stuff may be additional capability for the Ukrainians. The real question now, Marty, is will we be able to push back on China's potential involvement with the Russians? And will we provide the Ukrainians with the fighter jets and the long-range missiles that they've long asked for?
How concerned are you and others about China's support to Russia right now, supplying the weapons that they need?
Well, obviously a significant concern. This was new news to the world when Secretary of State Antony Blinken noted that we knew that the Chinese companies had been providing non-lethal support, flak jackets, helmets, and the like. But what was new was this idea that the Chinese were considering and were thinking about coming right up to the line of providing lethal weaponry if they thought they could get away with it. Obviously, now we've called them out. They won't be able to get away with it. But, Marty, it's worth noting the Chinese have pushed back and said, you can't tell us what to do. This may actually push them towards providing more weaponry to Russia. So we'll see what happens in the next days and weeks as we move along.
Well, and maybe even sooner than that, as President Biden plans to visit Poland. Globally, his remarks could not come at a more critical time.
That's exactly right, Marnie. You know, what's happening there with the new Russian counteroffensive in the Donbass is a big issue. President Zelensky at the Munich Security Conference this past week called on the allies to up the speed of support being provided. In particular, I think he's looking to get those M1 Abrams tanks that the U.S. has promised, the Challenger 2s and the Leopard 2s that the British and the Germans have also agreed to provide. Getting that weaponry there is going to be really critical to Ukraine's pushing back against this new Russian offensive.
Do you think the U.S. will change its stance on sending the F-16s and some of the long-range missiles that Ukraine has requested?
You know, it's a great question, Marnie. It has been consistent with prior U.S. practice to resist providing additional weaponry out of concern that it might, upset the Russians. But we've ultimately gotten there every time, including on tanks, including on HIMARS missiles. So it's not impossible to believe that the United States will provide those fighter jets over the course of time. In the case of the tanks, at least, it was the British agreeing to provide them first that sort of pushed us into that decision. That may happen again here if the allies get ahead of us, as Rishi Sunak has been in recent weeks.
Jamil, what can the president say to tamp down the tension with China right now as he visits Poland?
Well, you know, the president has made clear in his remarks to the American public, and as Secretary of State Antony Blinken made clear just a few days ago, that the U.S. isn't looking for conflict with China. We're looking for competition, but not conflict. That being said, it does seem like the Chinese are spoiling for a fight, sending that spy balloon over the United States, although there are now claims that it may have drifted over by mistake, and potentially upping their involvement with the Russians. So the Chinese have also threatened Taiwan. They've been building these militarized islands in the South China Sea. So it may not be something we can avoid. The question becomes, if a conflict does come, where's the president? He's leaned pretty forward, but his administration has walked it back every time he's done that when it comes to Taiwan.
Jamil Jaffer, appreciate your time this morning. Good to see you.
Thanks, Marnie.